I will be talking about what Airbus is doing in space, and my presentation will be of three parts. After the introduction, that I will provide general information about Airbus and in particular space activities. Then I will be talking about some innovative products and projects that are undertaken by Airbus. Then at the last part, I will be talking about the new vision of Airbus named as Next Space, which is in fact how Airbus is seeing the future with space, and also how Airbus would like to be perceived by the all stakeholders and the community with regard to its space activities. Okay. Airbus, as you all mostly know, is in fact a commercial aircraft manufacturer, and with two divisions. One is helicopters, and the other one is defense and space. Space, in fact, is a part of defense and space, along with the military aircraft, UAVs, and connected intelligence and military aircraft. You see, and I'm sure recognize some of the products that Airbus is doing in aviation. And Airbus in defense and space area is the largest aeronautics and space company in Europe, and also a worldwide leader in some certain areas. If you look at a quick glance of Airbus Space domain only, Airbus 2020 revenues is reached 2.5 billion euros, and it's mostly come from the 70% products, and then the rest is services. And Airbus Space is world's #1 Earth observation export company in satellites and also in services as well as data, and also the world's #1 telecom satellites exporter. And Europe's the only company working on human space flight, and also the only company in the world other than the US companies providing human space flight equipment and services to NASA. And if you look at the industrial footprint, of course, Airbus is a global company, but its roots based in Europe, and it's employing more than 12,000 people and working at 13 sites located in 7 countries, including US. Airbus in space domain doing a lot of things and active all along the space value chain, from satellite manufacturing to space equipment, from launchers and launcher equipment to ground segment and satellite operations. Airbus has its own fleet of Earth observation and telecom satellites, providing services and data, and also developing applications based upon the data coming from these platforms located in space, creating additional value-added services for the users of governments. And especially in space equipment area, before that, today, very few mission leaves Earth without Airbus equipment on board, space equipment on board. And as I mentioned, Airbus has a huge fleet of Earth observation satellites, employing many different and various sensors, collecting data and providing this to the customers on Earth. And most recent addition is the Pléiades Neo satellites with the 30 centimeter GST, and with the launch of 2 additional satellites this year, we will have 4 satellites, Pléiades Neo satellites, providing very high resolution data imagery to the customers, and with huge capacity. And any location on Earth, we will be able to visit twice a day. And other satellites are mostly known to you, I'm sure. And you can add up total value. I think total number is 16, and with the 2 additional Pléiades Neo this year, it will be 18. And you can add on top of this the Zephyr platform, that I wanted to mention specifically. It is a high altitude, long endurance UAV, in fact, flying above the commercial air routes, flying at about 70,000 feet and sustaining the operation about 2 months. Airbus is right now conducting very intensive flight tests for this, and will be providing service as Zephyr services in the near future. And on top of this, Airbus has also some subsidiaries, some new space companies, startups like Hawkeye 360. They are using small satellites. It's a US-based company, but Airbus invested in that company. They are already have some portion of fleet in space operational, using small satellites to employ ESM, electronic passive receivers, to collect the electromagnetic signatures of the Earth that they are flying over. Airbus has a long heritage from the Asterix satellite, which is the first European satellite made in France by the Matra, which is the predecessor of Airbus, up to Rosetta and Columbus. From this perspective, Airbus can be considered as an old space company, but rather we prefer to be named as a pioneer in this area. And if you look at the 2021 highlights, Airbus managed to launch 10 new spacecraft. 5 of them are Earth observation satellites. As I mentioned, 2 of them are Pléiades Neo, and 4 are connecting people, telecom satellites. And I'm proud to say that 2 of them were Turksat 5A and 5B satellites were made for Turksat, Turkish telecom operator company. And along with this, as I mentioned, Airbus has a broad spectrum of portfolio for space equipment. We sold more than 1,000 equipment to the customers, and 10 major programs are going on track regarding moon mission, are part of the Artemis mission, and Mars mission, and science missions to other planets. And Airbus got new orders last year, and one of them is with respect to moon mission, along with the Galileo satellites. Airbus will be making the 2nd generation of Galileo satellites, and we got orders for our new fully flexible satellites that I will be talking soon. And if we, for the interest of this community, Airbus is supporting the World Space Weeks with its ambassadors, and to inspire the school children all over the world. And Airbus is also targeting a more sustainable future for the space, and is doing things that really matters from that perspective. I will be elaborating this topic soon in the later part of my presentation. This is the 9 main domains that Airbus Space is active. In this second part, I will be mentioning some inspiring projects and the products Airbus has developed. OneSat will be a game changer in telecom satellites market. It's a fully flexible satellite. When I say fully flexible, I'm referring to its flexibility in coverage, in power and frequency. So we already started to make contracts for this new family of telecom satellites. And Airbus is also a manufacturer of OneWeb satellites. It's a joint venture in the US with the OneWeb telecom services. And OneWeb satellites, it resembles a revolution in satellite manufacturing. It's a real representative of mass production in satellite domains. Normally, traditionally, each company were able to get manufacture 2-3 satellites per year, but now with this technology, digital technologies and the redesign of the telecom satellite made it possible to manufacture 2-3 satellites per day. So far, I believe 2/3 of the targeted number of OneWeb satellites have been launched so far. I think the final figure will be about 650. And Airbus is a part of the ExoMars rover project, scheduled to be launched this year. And again, regarding Mars, Airbus will be the design and developer of the Earth Return Orbiter, bringing the samples collected from Mars back to Earth by 2031. This is a part of European Space Agency's contribution to the NASA-led Mars mission. Again, Airbus is a part of the Moon mission, Artemis mission, and making the Orion European service module for the Orion vehicle that will be carrying the astronauts to Mars. And JUICE is a huge satellite with amazing solar panel coverage. Will be launched in this decade and will be going to Jupiter to study that planet. And at ISS, Europe's main contribution to ISS is the Columbus module, and it's undertaken and built and operated by Airbus, and since 2000. And as part of this, in 2020, April 2020, a Bartholomew module has been installed on ISS. It is something that Airbus is doing, making it more possible for the researchers and scientists to conduct experiments on ISS, and it's available for rent by the Airbus marketing teams. And another cool thing is Airbus has developed with the AI technology developed by IBM and DLR is a crew interactive assistant. It's named as Simon. The second generation is in operation at ISS now. As you know, the more they are used there, they collect more data, and this more data is something needed to make the AI algorithms work better. And this will be I think, part of the future missions to Mars and to Moon. Yes. Okay. Time-wise, it looks okay. Now I would like to come to the third part of my presentation, which is something we learned during this pandemic time, that the planet we are living, the Earth, is so fragile, so sensitive. And so far, we, unfortunately, all human beings were not very cautious about this. But if we, and we should be caring about future, because we should be caring about our generation and human being on Earth. So Airbus is doing its part, not only to just things to reduce its carbon footprint, but also is redesigning the aviation and the space in a much more sustainable way. And today, from aircraft to satellites and from engines to fuel. And right now, I'm sure you see in the news that Airbus is a big supporter of sustainable aviation fuel. But by the year 2035, hydrogen will replace the existing carbon-based fuels. So Airbus had obtained and investing in this hydrogen technology to develop the future generation of aircrafts working on hydrogen as a fuel. And this is also valid for the space, because space is critical for us in many ways, but I would like to emphasize 2 points. One is we learned again in this period of time that space is crucial. Space-based technologies are crucial to monitor Earth and atmosphere. And second, space is a asset and very critical for us. But its sustainment is also something we should be taking care. I mean, we shouldn't be doing the same mistakes we did with planet Earth. with the oceans. I mean, we should be more careful about the usage of space and this development of space technologies accordingly. That's why Airbus would like to stop using the new space versus old space, and instead we are adapting the concept of next space. We think at Airbus, new space is something overused and doesn't reflect our values that are represented by Airbus. And at Airbus, we would like to do things that really matters for planet, our Earth, matters for the space itself, and that's of vital importance and paramount importance for our future on this fragile planet Earth. So what Airbus is doing to support this approach, there is a little video, but I'm speaking it. You can find it on YouTube and watch it. It's a 1-minute video. Airbus as I said, Airbus is doing things that really matters. One good example is Airbus is investing itself to change the dynamics of space. As I said, old space, new space, they are implying some race. Competition is good, but we are trying to avoid some destructive competition. Even worse is the race between the superpowers of Earth in space. We don't want to mess the big players, super players, the space, because that represents our future. And some critical technologies and products are developed by it's Airbus's own investment, like Piliad Neo, which is vital to get high resolution images all over the world. And we are doing some innovative projects with the space agencies like the CO3 to get a very high resolution elevation database of the Earth and space data highway. We just, Mr. Bülent Altan has just mentioned about it. And Bartolomeo is the experimentation at ISS and OneSat, as I mentioned. And Airbus Ventures, Airbus as a traditional player, as a pioneer, is backing up many promising startups that are coming with very innovative ideas and developing new technology. I mentioned Hawkeye as one example, and you can check the Airbus website for more examples. Another point is, as I mentioned about Airbus is doing for satellites what Henry Ford did a century ago for cars. The OneWeb satellites manufacturing line is a real representative of mass production of the satellites to match the production rates needed by the mega constellations. And of course, at this point, I should mention that the mega constellations and the race over at that point, I mean, I'm not saying this competition, but we should stop the race, make it a non-destructive competition. And Airbus designed and manufacturing OneWeb satellite in a much more responsible and much more sustainable way to make sure that they will be decommissioned and at the end of its lifetime properly. And Airbus has a huge database coming from its sensors about our Earth, about the atmosphere, and there we are making these available for the users, regardless of their big player or government or commercial news star, so that they can develop their design and develop their own algorithms. Because we believe that this will be the whole beneficiary of the humankind, and we, as a pioneer, as a leader in this domain, Airbus would like to work hand to hand with the whole ecosystem, with the entire space ecosystem, because, as I said, we would like to avoid the unnecessary competition or destructive competition. Instead, we should be working hand to hand and in cooperation and collaboration to tackle the very challenging problems of the Earth today and the sustainable space. Another thing, as I already mentioned, space debris and the responsible usage of space, especially the low Earth orbit, is a very critical topic that are being discussed today. Airbus is committed to meet the international standards for the orbiting at the end of life of the satellite. Airbus is introducing eco-design in our satellites, as I mentioned, to not only to OneWeb satellites, but other satellites. Airbus is the first company to testing the debris removal techniques in space, like the harpoon, usage of harpoon. And we take the space traffic management very seriously, as it is needed in today's airline traffic management. We see it as a necessity in the space traffic management and ready to contribute to the development of international standards accordingly. Okay, this concludes my presentation. I was, a little bit late. Sorry for this, and I'm ready to receive questions, if any.
Thank you very much, Mustafa, for this valuable presentation. I just want to ask a quick question and then let the audiences to ask. You mentioned about the next space, which is very important for sustainable world. I just want to ask how actually the universities and institutes can contribute to this next space idea. What can we do together with Corsa, together with Airbus? Is there any way that you already put on our way?
Okay, good question. And again, my apologies because my presentation is not directly addressing your question, but I believe that the later part of my presentation, and I had a backup slide that I would like to share with you. I think this is, can you see it?
Yes.
There is a list of questions that we ask ourselves, but this list of questions can be used as a template or to benchmark your own activity, whatever it is. I mean, it could be a startup, it could be a project, it could be an idea, mission idea, or it could be a curriculum that you adopt in your department or university. If you think that your answers will be mostly yes, and you can consider that your program, your company, your project is aligned with the next space vision of Airbus. And from this perspective, you are already contributing this vision. And to make it more solid, of course, I couldn't go into the details of these projects and products that Airbus has undertaken, but to name a few, cybersecurity, robotics, artificial intelligence, data science, digital technologies for manufacturing and robotics are very welcome in realizing these projects and contributing to the next space vision of Airbus. And also I would like to mention that Airbus has its own supported space idea competitions and hackathons, and Airbus is very active in Horizon EU projects. So I'm sure the audience can find it interesting to check the related website so that they can be participating in these competitions or calls. Thank you.
What I understand, any institutes from all around the world can apply for those funding programs, right?
Yes, but the Airbus has all over the world offices, and some countries we have engineering centers and innovation centers. So it's better to check. I mean, to name a few. For example, in Singapore, we have engineering center and innovation center. In China, in US, and of course in US. In fact, we are trying to have those centers in Turkey as well. So usually the regional challenges, regional competitions are conducted through these offices.
Thank you very much. Samuel, you can ask your question. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mustafa, for your interesting presentation. And I have two questions, which are both related to sustainability of space. What are the challenges that Airbus has faced so far or is facing in speeding up the process of achieving sustainable space? And the next question is, are there any thoughts of producing electric aircrafts? Thank you.
I start with your second question. Yes, Airbus is working on Siemens and Rolls-Royce on electric aircraft and ducted fan type engine will be employed. You can check the website for the details. And coming back to your original question, sustainment in space should be interpreted or in various ways. One most critical one, I think everybody would agree, is the space debris issue. Airbus, to tackle this issue, Airbus is developing and space debris removal techniques using various things and means to collect the space debris and deactivate satellite and pull it over to other places. There are some new startups also working on this, and Airbus is also funding and supporting some of these. Another way of participating this more sustainable space is the in-service, in-orbit servicing capabilities. Airbus is also developing some robotics, space robotics, to achieve that, along with some other big companies. As far as I know, Northrop Grumman is one good example, but also there are some startups and new space companies working on this. Airbus is also working with some of them and funding directly some of them. But most critical things is because the space, I mean, the mega constellations are a big concern for the whole space community right now. And OneWeb is talking about 650 satellites, but for the other competitors, we are talking about thousands of satellites. If you add up on top of that, there will be some other initiatives coming from China or Russia. I'm not sure which, but we can expect those. So this mega constellations, I mean, is a really concern, not only for reflecting the light and making things harder or more difficult for the astronomer or observers, but also managing this traffic is a big challenge, and we need definitely some innovative ideas, new artificial intelligence algorithms specifically designed for this purpose.
We have very limited time, and we have two interesting questions. I want to read both of them. By adding these 650 satellites for the OneWeb, Airbus will be like SpaceX, making astronomers' observation more impossible because of the light reflection from these satellites. And another one, are mega constellations, for example, Starlink, OneWeb, the responsible way to go from space debris point of view? I mean, these are very related.
Yeah, they are very related, and I think I have already addressed some. But to answer the first question directly, Airbus has tested the fleet of. I mean, first of all, we make the satellites, but the satellites will be operated and owned by a different company, OneWeb telecom company, but. As a more responsible way of conducting business, Airbus has already tested the impact of this constellation to the work of astronomers, and they found it acceptable. I'm talking about hundreds of satellites, but if we add up, and Starlink alone, talking about thousands of satellites, of course, the impact will be much, much worse. And that's why we are inviting our competitors to be more responsible and sustainable way of using space from this perspective. And the other question is, I already mentioned some debris point. Airbus has already tested its OneWeb satellite that will be demolished improperly on time at the end of their life. And also the debris will be created is much less, because I'm talking about hundreds of satellites versus thousands of satellites.
Thank you very much. I think we should stop here because there are many other questions coming in. Nate, what do you think? Shall we go to breakout session or take one more?
Maybe take one more, and then we'll reduce the time for the breakout session, because this has been very interesting.
Nate, don't forget the photo session.
Yes, okay. No, we'll do that next. Yeah.
Arifur, you are going to be the last one to ask question.
Thank you very much. I'm Arifur Khan from University of Texas at El Paso. My question is very simple and easy, I guess, but what are or is the most recent principal research focus of Airbus in the space domain?
As I said, Airbus is active in 9 main sectors or domains in space, and each has its own state-of-the-art activities. And I can of course talk more about each of them, but as I said, the most critical research areas are making less and less space debris, and so that we have a sustainable space. And because we believe that at the end of the day, if you think of the Kessler syndrome, space access can become impossible for the whole humanity, regardless of the country or company. It may sound like a horror movie or non-fiction movie scenario, but this could very well be the case, and turning the fiction into non-fiction. So these are the latest revolution, let's say, or transformation of the ambitions of Airbus in terms of technology, space technology.